shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and choose the good. For before the child shall know to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land that thou abhorrest shall be forsaken of both her kings. Now this is not very clear. I'm going to read it in Moffat. Most of it's clear, but the last portion is not. All right, a virgin shall conceive, who shall bear a son, and call his name Emmanuel. God is with us. He will enjoy curds and honey whenever he knows good food from bad. For before ever the child knows good food from bad, the land whose two kings are your terror shall be desolate. All right, now this is bringing out a situation where there are two kings who are going to render the land desolate. Now it starts out with Joshua, with a child being born. When Joshua was born, there were no two kings that rendered the land desolate when he was a child. There was no time when Joshua actually didn't know good from bad. We find that in Revelation 12, there is a child that is born to Zion, which is the birth of the kingdom. Now, the man-child is the head of this kingdom, but he is not the whole kingdom. It is composed of Joshua and 144,000, and then the earthly ruling element. So until the kingdom is fully developed, it is a child that is not grown, not developed, not mature. This means that until the heavenly and the earthly portion of this kingdom is complete, there are members that make up the ruling organization who do not know right from wrong, who do not know how to choose the good from the evil, or to separate the good from the evil. This means that before all of the 200 million are gathered, the abomination of desolation is going to be here. And some of the 200 million are going to be ensnared by the abomination of desolation. In other words, before ever the child knows good food from bad, the land whose two kings are your terror shall be desolate, or rendered desolate in Moffat. Remember, the child is the newborn kingdom, and it's made up of the entire ruling element, heavenly and earthly. And until it's all gathered, it's still not complete. So when the members are still coming in and still learning, we find that the abomination of desolation will take over. And the result will be that the last members will be ensnared by the abomination. Now I'm going to read Isaiah 6. We'll start with verse 6. Then flew one of the seraphim to me with a red-hot stone in his hand, which he had taken with tongs from the altar, and he touched my mouth with it and said, See, this has touched your lips, so your guilt is removed and your sin forgiven. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? This is referring to the preaching work. Whereupon I said, Here am I, send me. So he said, Go and say to this people, keep on hearing, but understand not. Keep on seeing, but know not. Make the mind of this people fat, dull their ears, and smear their eyes, lest they see with their eyes and hear with their ears, and have a mind to understand and turn and be healed. Okay, now the result of the preaching work to the wicked will actually be to stop their ears and close their eyes. This is actually the truth. You find many people that as soon as they begin to understand, and as soon as they figure out the consequences, what they have to face and what they have to give up, they will close their ears and close their eyes and make sure that they don't absorb any more knowledge. In this way, they won't be guilty of anything. They don't want anything. This is what they think. Okay, now he continues. Then I said, How long, O Lord? How long must we keep preaching? And he said, Till cities lie waste without inhabitants, and houses without man, and the land be left a desolation, and the Lord have removed man far away. Now this doesn't mean that all the houses are empty, and we're going to be visiting empty houses. But there's going to be many houses empty without man. Now man is actually a creature created in Yahweh's image. This means true men will not be there. Because he says, and the Lord have removed men far away. In other words, true men, true women will have left. And many be the forsaken places in the midst of the land. Now, this says, even if a tenth remain in it. Now, Rotherham brings out clearer, he says, yet a tenth shall remain in it. This must pass through the fire again like a terebinth or an oak, whose stump remains when it is felled. A holy race is the stump of it. Now this means that when the land is rendered desolate, when men have been removed far away, when we have left, there's going to be a tenth left here. And this tenth must go through the fire again. In other words, they've gone through the persecution of a portion of the 1260 days. Then because they don't get out, they go through some more persecution when the abomination takes over. But these prove themselves. He says a holy race or a holy seed is the stump thereof. Okay, 1/10 of the holy seed is going to be ensnared by the abomination. This means about 20 million are not going to get out in time of Israel. Now, just why they're not going to get out will be a multitude of reasons. Some will be new members just coming in. Some actually may not believe the papacy is going to come up, really. They may think it'll be something else. There may be a variety of reasons. Maybe they'll wake up, some of them will wake up actually when the Pope does take over. For instance, let's take some of Jehovah's Witnesses who don't believe that the Pope's going to come up. They think it's the UN. Maybe they wouldn't wake up. Some of them wouldn't wake up until the Pope does take over. Nevertheless, we're not trying to say what holds them back. What he is telling you is that 1/10 or 20 million will be ensnared by the abomination and will not come out in time. These will have to come out. These will really have to prove their faith. They will have to come out after the work is already outlawed, after everything is stopped. These are some who really take their flight in the winter and the Sabbath, when it's kind of late. Yahweh just informed us that everybody isn't going to commit at once. All right, now we're going to go to Ezekiel 1. All right, we all have it. Now it came to pass in the 30th year, in the 4th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I was among the captives of the river of Chebar, that the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God. All right, now the river Chebar means extent of time or a great while, indicating that the vision that he was seeing at that time would be a great while, or would have to go through a tremendous extent of time before it was fulfilled. In the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of King Jehoiakim's captivity, the word of the Lord came expressly unto Ezekiel the priest, the son of Buzai, in the land of the Chaldeans by the river Chebar, and the hand of the Lord was there upon him. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself, and brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire. All right, now these are all heavenly signs. The scriptures say that Yahweh is in the whirlwind, coming out of the north, coming out of the seat of authority, coming from Yahweh. A great cloud. This is not a cloud of trouble. This indicates that it's a heavenly scene. A fire or brightness or illumination enfolding itself. And brightness was about it, and in the midst thereof, as the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire. Now, in many translations, the word is not amber, it's electrum. In other words, it is a mixture of metals, a combination of gold and silver, which is a very pale, light yellow. All right? Now, this would indicate that it was coming from not only the throne of Yahweh, but it was coming from the throne of Yahweh and Yahshua, that they were together. The Yahweh would represent the gold and the authority directly beneath Yahweh would be silver, and the mixture of the two would produce this light pale color. We find in Revelation 22, verse 1, and he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb, indicating that Yahshua is the direct representative of Yahweh, and everything that Yahweh commands, he does. Now he says, also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures. Now he began to see 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man. All right, now a man is created in Yahweh's image. This means that these 4 living creatures were created in love, justice, wisdom, and power. And every one had 4 faces, and every one had 4 wings. Okay, now it's going to describe the faces, and each one of these faces represents one of the attributes of Yahweh. Now the 4 wings represent that what he sees takes place in the second heavens. In other words, it is not in the third heavens where Yahweh is. This is the loftiest position. But it is in the second heavens. Now, to show you what would be the case if it was in the third heavens, listen to Isaiah 6:1 and 2. It says, "In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord, or Yahweh, sitting upon a throne high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above it stood the seraphim. Each one had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he did fly." Okay, now Yahweh is in the third heavens, and the seraphim here had 6 wings. Now these have 4 wings, indicating that it is the organization directly beneath Yahweh. This is the second heavens. "And their feet were straight feet, and the sole of the feet was like the sole of a calf's foot." All right, now 4 living creatures, and we find that they had straight feet, and the sole of the foot was as a calf's foot. Now the calf has a split hoof. It is a clean animal. In other words, it means it's clean and wholly acceptable to Yahweh. It is a righteous organization. "And they sparkled like the color of burnished brass." Now you notice that the feet were the color of burnished brass. This indicates that the entire organization that he was referring to descends to the lowest part of the heavens. In other words, this would include the angelic host, the angels, not the earth in this case. It's all heavenly. "And they had the hands of a man under their wings, on their 4 sides." Well, the hand with the hands, a man is skillful and able to accomplish things. He's able to do many things. There's practically nothing that a man cannot do with his hands, indicating skill and the ability to accomplish things. "And they 4 had their faces and their wings. Now their wings were joined one to another. They turned not when they went every one straight forward." Okay, this means that 2 wings, I'll read this in another translation, 9. Yeah, the wings of the 4 of them were linked one to another, and their faces turned not as they went, but each went straight forward. Okay, now this would indicate that they were touching wings in this manner, and they went straight forward, indicating that they did not turn to the left or to the right. Wherever they were guided to go, they went exactly forward, carrying with them the 4 attributes of Yahweh. This is referring to Yahweh's organization, and it moves forward in love and justice and wisdom and power, and it never diverts from its course. Now, as for the likeness of their faces, the 4 had the face of a man and the face of a lion on the right side, and the 4 had the face of an ox on the left side, and the 4 had the face of an eagle. Okay, now the man symbolizes love, because the man is the only creature in the universe who is able to understand enough to sympathize and share other people's feelings. And he can be directly affected emotionally by someone else's suffering. And he can actually be unselfish and be concerned and suffer over someone else's misery. The face of a lion, the lion symbolizes kingship. Kingship and authority and all rule is supposed to be for the promotion of justice, that mankind is treated fairly and equal. This represents justice. And the face of an ox symbolizes power. The ox is known for its brute power. The eagle symbolizes wisdom, because the eagle has 8 times the vision of man, and he can see 8 times clearer, farther. And to see is to understand is to have knowledge and wisdom. So here are the 4 attributes of Yahweh on these 4 living creatures. Thus were their faces, and their wings were stretched, well, this was upward, but outward. 2 wings of every one were joined one to another, and 2 covered their bodies. Now, verse 12. And they went every one straight forward. Whither the Spirit was to go, they went, and they turned not when they went. Okay, now, wherever the Spirit directed them, they went straight forward, and they did not turn as they went. Nothing diverted them. The Spirit guided them. Now he says, as for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of lamps. These coals of fire symbolize Yahweh's truth. We find that in Revelation 8, where coals are taken from the altar and poured upon the earth, and there were thunderings and noises and earthquakes, repercussions. This indicates the indignation that Yahweh pours out upon the earth through his organization. And lamps naturally indicate light. They send light and illuminate. It went up and down among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. I'll read this in the Moffat's 13. Also in the middle of the creatures there was something moving to and fro like glowing coals, like torches, a fire that gleamed out and flashed out lightning. Okay. Now, verse 15. Now as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon the earth by the living creatures with his 4 faces. This means that right alongside of the living creature with the 4 faces, there was a wheel. And this wheel was upon the earth. It reached all the way down to the earth. Now, a wheel in itself is something that makes progress. It's a crude form, you might say, of organization. It assists man in his work, but we'll find that it's more complicated than that. It says, the appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of beryl, and they 4 had one likeness. And their appearance and their work was, as it were, a wheel in the middle of a wheel, or a wheel within a wheel. Now the clue here is the color of beryl, or topaz. This is known as the stone of Tarshish, or the merchant stone, the sea, the attributes of a merchant. In other words, it's a stone that is the color of the sea and has been adopted by the merchants as their stone. So this would indicate that the merchant or commerce symbolizes a system. This means the color of beryl on this wheel means that it does represent the system that reaches down to the earth. All right, now there was 4 wheels, one beside each one of the 4 living creatures. And their appearance was that, and their work was, it were, as a wheel in the middle of a wheel, or a wheel within a wheel. Now, when you get wheels within wheels, you begin to get more complicated organizations. When you have just a wheel that turns, it's very simple. When you begin to have wheels within wheels and gears and one affects the other, it gets complicated. This indicates that the organization will not be a simple one. It will be a complicated organization. But naturally, it will not be as complicated as the devil's organization. In other words, there will be more than one thing to do in the kingdom. There will be many things to do. We'll have to be concerned. Every different continent will be concerned in raising its food and providing for the inhabitants in the land. Every phase of livelihood. We will be concerned with trade with other countries which are of a different climate. We'll have to see that fair trade is conducted where no one will be cheated. We'll have a program for education. Schools will be built. The type of education we will give our children, the past history of the consequences or the sufferings of the devil's organization. Everyone will be instructed in everything that has passed. This will really be something we have to teach the children, that they may grow up with a knowledge of the disaster of the devil's organization. So they will know it. They will know it thoroughly. They will be acquainted with every phase of it. So the organization will not be a simple one. It'll be a wheel within a wheel. Yes, yet there'll be many people to assist in this. There'll be many people that will be gifted for one type of work or another. And the work in the kingdom, being that there will be no selfishness involved, will move very smoothly and efficiently. But this is describing the system. Okay, now it is the heavenly organization that guides the system, and it reaches down to the earth. Now it says, when they went upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went, or upon their four rims. B17 here. When they moved in any direction that their four sides faced, never turning as they moved. Moffat brings out. All right? In other words, whichever way they were commanded to go, they went, never turning to one side or to another. Now in verse 20 it says, whithersoever or wherever the Spirit was to go, 18. As for their rings or rims, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rims were full of eyes round about the four of them. Right, now the rim is actually the outside of the wheel. They were so high that they were dreadful, indicating that as Ezekiel looked up, he saw these wheels that touched the ground, but they reached high up into the heavens, indicating that the whole organization made contact with the heavens. And I don't know if any of you have ever dreamt anything really high, how terrifying it can be. I have dreamt these things at times, and where you look really high into the sky and you just begin to imagine what a tremendous height that is and how dreadful it would be to really be up that high, the fear that you would have. And this is what Ezekiel saw, tremendous height, almost out of reason. And when the living creatures went, the wheels went by them. And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. Now this indicates that whatever the living creatures did, the wheels followed them and did exactly what the living creatures wanted them to do. Well, the living creatures were the four attributes of Yahweh: love, justice, wisdom, and power. This means that the organization did not move, did not do anything without the attributes of Yahweh. Everything was done in love and justice and wisdom and power. There was nothing done like is done today, in selfishness, injustice, stupidity, and brute force. This is the way the world operates today. They don't care about justice. They don't understand justice. Right or wrong, obey the law. So the law is corrupt, so that's it. But there's nothing like that in Yahweh's organization. Everything will be done in love and justice and wisdom, backed by his power. All right? Whithersoever the Spirit was to go, they went. Thither was their spirit to go, and the wheels were lifted up over against them. For the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. In other words, the wheels were directed by the spirit that was in the living creatures. They did not go on their own. The organization did not move without them. When those went, these went. And when those stood, these stood. And when those were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up over against them. For the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. Now, Yahweh emphasizes 3 times here to show you that nothing is done without the wheels. If they moved forward, they went with the living creatures. The living creatures motivated them. Or if they went back, or if they stopped, or if they lifted up, regardless what was done, it was the spirit of the living creatures that was in this organization. Nothing moved, nothing was accomplished without love, justice, wisdom, and power. This is the way Yahweh's organization will operate. Now, this is really nice to know, because you know there'll be no injustice. There'll be a love which will actually take care of all of his creatures, like the love of the most loving mother or father throughout eternity. Justice where you will never become angered or have been robbed or taken over by anyone, cheated. Creature was as the color of the terrible crystal stretched forth over their heads above, or awesome crystal. Let's see, 22. Over the heads of the creatures was the semblance of a firmament, glittering like transparent ice, stretched above their heads. Okay? I guess the King James is about as good as any. And the likeness of the firmament upon the heads of the living creatures was as the color of the terrible crystal stretched forth over their heads above. In other words, this would indicate that some translations bring out an awesome crystal. In other words, it would be a tremendous, transparent space which would be awesome to look upon. In other words, this indicates the vastness of space. And this organization was here with these 4 living creatures upon the earth, and the vastness of space of the firmament of Yahweh was all affected by it. And under the firmament were their wings straight, the one toward the other. Every one had 2, which covered on this side and on every one, and every one had 2 which covered on that side, their bodies. Okay, 23. Under the firmament, one pair of their wings touched those of the next creature, while the other pair covered the body. All right? And Goodspeed continues in 24. And when they went, the sound of their wings sounded to me like the sound of mighty waters, or like the voice of the Almighty. All right. 24. I heard their wings sounded like the sound of many waters, like the thunder of the Almighty, and the sound of a tumult like the sound of a host. All right. This would indicate the noise made by the entire organization, indicating that there were multitudes and multitudes involved. The noise of great waters. Now we find Revelation 17 brings out that the waters which you saw are multitudes and nations and kingdoms and tongues. In other words, a tremendous host. So the sound of this organization was the noise of tremendous multitudes, indicating that the organization is not going to be made up of just four creatures and four wheels. These are only the attributes that will guide the organization, but it'll be made up of multitudes and multitudes of his creatures. And there was a voice from the firmament that was over their heads when they stood and had let down their wings. Let's see, 25. It was a sound of tumult like that of an armed camp, and when they stood still, they let down their wings. Above the firmament that was over their heads was the semblance of a throne, colored like a sapphire. These translations are really something. Yeah, both Goodspeed and Moffat's go over to the vault over the heavens. Above the vault over their heads was the semblance of a throne, blue like a sapphire, and on the throne-like appearance there was a semblance of a human form. All right. Above the firmament that was over their heads was the semblance of a throne covered like sapphire, and upon the semblance of the throne was a semblance like that of a man sitting above it. Okay, and the King James says, and above the firmament that was over their head was the likeness of a throne, as the appearance of a sapphire stone, and upon the likeness of the throne was the likeness of the appearance of a man above it. Okay, now above the firmament was over their heads. This indicates the throne or the authority from Yahweh, which was actually the one who ruled the entire organization. This was above everything. And I saw as the color of amber, as the appearance of fire round about within it, from the appearance of his loins even upward, and from the appearance of his loins even downward. I saw, as it were, the appearance of fire, and it had brightness round about. Okay, now this is the throne, and from the throne comes all the illumination and the light, which guides this organization. All right, now in 28. Says, while all around there was a bright hollow like the rainbow that appears in the clouds after rain. Such was the appearance of what resembled the splendor of the eternal. Okay, King James says, as the appearance of the bow that is in the cloud in the day of rain, so was the appearance of the brightness round about. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. And when I saw it, I fell upon my face, and I heard a voice of one that spake. All right, now this describes the entire organization of Yahweh. It shows that the portion that will rule, directly rule, the earth will be the second heavens and will include the angels. The wheels will be the organization which will touch the earth. And we find that the organization actually pictures the system, because it was had the color of beryl, indicating that it was the epitaph of a merchant, or the attributes of a merchant. So this would indicate it is the system that will be made, and it will be controlled by the four attributes of Yahweh. And above this entire organization we see the throne, and it is guided by the Almighty God, Yahweh. All right, now this is a complicated study to describe the organization of Yahweh, but there are symbols here which give you the key to the understanding. Now, we know that the four faces represent love, justice, wisdom, and power. We see that the wheels represent the organization, and we see that the wheels do not move in any direction that is contrary to the four attributes of Yahweh, which shows Yahweh's people that the kingdom will always operate, be dominated by these four attributes. Are there any questions on the study? It's a short study. Yes, John?
Go to 26 again.
Okay, 26. All right, above the firmament that was over their heads was the semblance of a throne covered like sapphire, and upon the semblance of the throne was a semblance like that of a man sitting above it.
No, what was the firmament itself?
All right, this was the space. Let's see, above the firmament. Yeah, This was the space that it was above the organization. In other words, he describes it as let's see, the likeness of a firmament. And the likeness of a firmament above the heads of the living creatures was of the color of terrible crystal or awesome crystal. In other words, there was a vast space between the organization. And then this vast space is tremendously lofty, but it ends with his throne, which was at the top of it. So he passed the firmament, or past the space. Above the firmament was there, so where am I? 28. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Distance between the heavens and the earth.
Right, and it was an awesome distance too, because some translations describe it as awesome. Heights at times and depths can look pretty awesome. You know, if you look really high, or really low. This means, it would actually describe that something is superhuman, really far. Yes, Bob.
In 26, what does the end of this? Upon the likeness of the throne is the likeness of the appearance of man.
Well, this is Yahweh, but he's referring to his appearance of a man, because this is the way we would see him. In fact, anybody that draws God draws him like a man. But it does indicate that he is, he has our attributes. He's the same. And this is the ways we would see him. In other words, you wouldn't be able to see a spirit, or you wouldn't understand if he was really what his body looked like. In fact, you have no idea what he would be like. Yeah. 18. All right. As for their rims, this says rings, they were so high that they were dreadful. And their rings were full of eyes round about them four. Okay, I don't think I brought that out too well. Yeah. Well, the rim naturally goes around the wheel altogether. All right, this means that the portion of the rim that was on top, that it was high, described as dreadful. In other words, frightening, tremendously high. Right? And the eyes, they're full of eyes, would indicate that it's full of understanding, the entire organization, full of wisdom and understanding. As though the organization could see where it was going, yes.
Could you go for verse 7 and then verse 13?
All right. Their legs too were straight, while the soles of their feet resembled the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like burnished bronze or brass. Okay. Well, the clue here is that the lower portion of the organization, being of bronze or brass, would be the lowest of the heavenly organization, which is the angels. In other words, it extends from the all the entire ruling element from the second heavens down onto the angels. Okay, and the calf's foot naturally is a split hoof, indicated as a clean organization.
Verse
13. You don't need that, do you? Okay. All right, 13. And in the midst of the creatures was an appearance like burning coals of fire, resembling torches, moving to and fro among the creatures. And the fire had a radiance. All right, now this is in the midst of the creatures, in the midst of the four. There were burning coals of fire. Okay, now this would indicate that the organization was full of truth. In other words, Yahweh uses these coals, we find in Revelation 8, to cast them upon the earth. And this produces repercussions. In other words, the organization had the coals or the truth, it carried the truth with it. That's what it's referring to. They resemble torches. Actually, torches are used for lighting or illumination and making the way clear. All right? Yes, Donna.
I don't believe in verses 24 and 25 you explain why they let their wings down when they stood. They had their wings, two of their wings spread out straight and two of their wings down at the side. But when they stood still, their wings went down.
Yeah. Well, naturally, when they stood, they're not using their wings. It says in 24, and when they went, I heard the noise of their wings, indicating that they were in motion. When they stopped, they just let them down. In other words, yeah, it's like a bird folds its wings, indicating. Yes, Jim? Pardon? Where are you reading? Well, the idea is that there was four wings. This is the clue, which means it's the second heavens. No, except that their bodies are covered. We find that the one with 6 wings, they also covered their body with 2 wings. And I even forget what they did with the other 4. 6, yeah.
They covered the face and they covered the
Yeah.
Sides and the others that went out.
Mm. All right, the key is that the 4 wings, it is the second heaven. Yes, Ginny? Well, the lifting off the earth is not really lifting off the earth. What he's telling you, no matter what is done, it follows the 4 attributes. This will indicate any movement at all. The 4 attributes lead them. See, they don't make any such movement really off the earth. Yeah.
In verse 25, well, we just went over that the 4 wings would indicate they were in the second heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So would it also be a little bit clear that in verse 25 that the firmament that was over their heads, where this voice came from, where Yahweh's voice came was, would be the third heaven? Because it was over their heads.
Yes.
They were in the second.
Yes. This is Yahweh in the third heavens. Yes. He's above them. All right, Bob.
In verse 27, I got a note beside it. Son does the will of your way. And then I noticed it says the color of Andy. Would this picture Yahweh?
Again, it's the 2 of them. Yeah. Again, this word is translated electrum in a lot of translations here. Actually, the Son does the actual leading, but it's backed by the Father. He does the express will of the Father. So the two of them combined. It comes from the throne of the Father and from the Son. Yeah, but naturally the Son is doing the will of the Father. Yes? As the appearance of the bow that is in the cloud in the day of rain. Okay? Now, I saw something in the fire with a radiance round about it, resembling the bow that appears in the clouds of a rainy day. Yeah, this is the new covenant, really. This signifies the new covenant of the shed blood of Yahshua and the everlasting life and the blessings that are associated with it. In other words, the new law, new covenant. Yes, Joe?
I'd like to go back to the Isaiah 6 and verse 13.
Verse what?
The last verse, verse 13.
All right.
Could you,
All right, King James says, but yet in it shall be a tenth. It shall return and shall be eaten as a teal tree and as an oak, whose substance is in them when they cast their leaves, so the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. Now this has really been corrupted. The translators will admit that. Here it says it shall return. All right, now 6:13. Right. Even though a tenth be spared, they too must be burned up, like stumps of oak and terebinth that have been felled. These stumps are the sacred race. Okay.
that 20 million you're talking about, I understand that part where you say they come out, they get it trapped, but they do manage to finally get out.
It is the holy seed. In other words, to be the holy seed, they have to prove themselves.
But this takes place during the desolation, the abomination.
Yeah. It has to. When the land is rendered desolate, the land whose two kings you are in dread shall be rendered desolate. Before the child knows to refuse the bad and choose the good.
But this is before the stranger class.
Oh yeah.
They come out during the 5 months.
Yeah. Way before. This is in the beginning of the abomination, 1290 days, right in the beginning. It'll take more faith then to come out of there when they're trapped in that than it actually will for us. The only blessing we have is that we see without requiring that much proof. Yes.
What kind of an answer do you give to people who say, well, how can we believe the Bible when the translators messed it up so much? And they say, how can we trust the translators? The answer I give usually is the Almighty God has the power to do it.
Well, if you examine the different translations, you'll put pieces together, see, and the Holy Spirit will actually figure the thing out. It's like the Septuagint, bringing out, gather yourself together, O unchastised nation. That's the only one. Other translations, well, the King James is the next closest. O nation undesired, not desired. See? All right, but the rest of them, they make the nation look like a criminal, like the nation wasn't worthy of anything. And the New Jerusalem says it's corrupted. They can't figure it out, really. They leave it out. That's how bad it gets. Jan.
Will there be some of Israel resurrected after Armageddon? Let's say somebody from Israel died because of the truth or something like that during the 1260 days, or sometime before Armageddon. Will they be resurrected afterwards?
Well, they certainly would. If something like that happens, it would be a person who could actually take that kind of treatment naturally. If Yahweh chose to prove what a beastly organization we're living in, a righteous person might be put to death. He doesn't indicate who would and who wouldn't. He says some of you they will put to death. See? So he doesn't tell you what class or anything else, but these would naturally be resurrected immediately and would be part of the 200 million.
Jen and I were discussing that today, and I told him that I didn't think that a just God would pick someone who proved himself Israel, since Israel alone has a particular blessing that the others won't have. That Yahweh would have an Israelite who proved himself worthy of being an Israelite and not just a stranger or not just a citizen of Yahweh's kingdom. Why he would let him die and then come back in the resurrection and have him simply be a citizen of the
He wouldn't be a citizen, no. He would have to be Israel.
Well, that's what we're asking. And
Yes.
after Armageddon, would there be some that would be...
He had proven himself. He had proven himself to the limit. What more can a man go?
Right.
If he dies. Okay. If a person knew that that was his mission, let's say Yahweh wanted me to die, and this was my mission, and I knew it, I'd love it, if that was it. But there's nothing worse than thinking that you're going to live, then you're going to die. This is what would, when your thoughts begin to run away with you, and you begin to imagine maybe this is going to happen to you, that's going to happen to you, see, then that throws a person all out of gear. It's not good sometimes to expect the best. Sometimes it's good to expect the worst, like in a court trial or something. You're better off. If you think of the best and you get something a little worse, you're disappointed. But whatever Yahweh has for us to do, we should rejoice, because we're in His hands and we know that we're not going to disappear. Fear not those who kill the body and can't kill the soul or can't destroy you. Fear Him who can destroy you, actually. Yeah.
When you're resurrected, though, you don't remember your former self. I mean, you have the same characteristics, but you don't.
No, not unless He tells you. You don't remember anything. So all these people who says they lived before, and they remember their past life, and they remember they were in Ireland 100 years ago, and so forth, they're big, bald-faced liars. The demons may be telling them, they may be truly deceived, but it's not true. Yes? I think you'll begin to get portions of it as you can bear it. I think if a person was alive, was resurrected now, and he saw himself all at once what he was before, it'd be quite a shock to him.
Well, but it wouldn't be revealed to everybody until after Armageddon, right?
Gradually. It could be any time. It could be any time, as you're able to bear it. But it would be little at the time, very little, so that there would be just an inkling, so that your mind would begin to develop on that inkling, and then a little more. Yes.
Did you ever get an inkling?
Pardon?
Did you ever just get a little inkling of the life before?
Nope. Just on the position and who I was, that's all.
You don't think you could bear it if you just had a little inkling?
Well, I guess he doesn't want to give me that much evidence. Yes, Jenny. Okay, let's see, where are we here? Okay, all it describes here is that from the appearance upward, he would describe, it's just describing that it comes from the two authorities, in other words, from Yahweh and Yahshua, the amber, and from the appearance of his loins downwards, it resembles fire with a radiance round about it, resembling the bow. In other words, all he's telling you is is where the authority comes from with the amber. That it is light, it sheds light, and it gives a promise. That's all he's telling you. He divides it into the three aspects of it. It has nothing to do with above or top. He just divided it into three. Where the authority comes from, that it radiates light, and that it gives the people a promise. All right, is there anything else? Yes, Chris. Pardon?
There's a newspaper meeting tonight, running in the study. And I think Bob would appreciate all of us to break one and let them know that we're thinking about it.
All right, did you hear that? They're meeting at Bunny and Linda's tonight on this newspaper that we're making. And Bob is going to be in there about another 18 days, so it'd be nice to give him some mail. You'll have visitors Saturday and Sunday, yeah. Yes, Jenny?
9 to 12 and 1 to 3. 9 to 12 and 1 to 3.
Okay, it'd be good. I think he'd feel pretty nice being visited. And I do understand he did a beautiful job. He was quiet about it. He answered the questions. He made it very clear that he was an Israelite, and he was not a part of this world, and he did not regard their jurisdiction over him, that we're a new nation. He made this very clear. And I think they're gradually beginning to understand it, especially when they're hit on all sides. I also faced a judge last Wednesday, and he got a little bit of it. Okay, Nia?
In Ezekiel, verse 1, I know you mentioned that word mentioned 7 times for a great while.
Yeah.
And then you said something about, would it just have to do with Ezekiel, a pictured time or something or other?
The vision would be in a great while in fulfilling. This is all. In other words, it'd be some 2,500 years before we would recognize it and understand it. All right, is there anything else then? If not, we'll be dismissed. Let's see, who are we going to get to dismiss us? Charles?
Dear Heavenly Father, Yahweh, we thank you that we come before you again to study your word. We hope that the knowledge we have gained will help to vindicate your holy name. We pray that the two witnesses will soon be getting together so that we may preach as one. And we pray for Bob that he'll be able to keep his strength through this trial. All these things we ask in the name of the beloved Son Yahshua, our King and High Priest.
Amen.